Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another Mega Stuff Irish Stew video where you take a tour through my mind and somehow hope to emerge unscathed. This is a series of videos that I guess I'm going to do where I talk about the stuff that's on my mind that isn't necessarily book-related. I have to confess, a couple of you have emailed me and said, these are really interesting. Please keep making these videos, but your tone of voice changes when you talk about books. I get the impression that even though you spend a lot of time online and obviously know something about the non-bookish subjects that you're talking about on your Irish Stew videos, you still really pay most of your attention to books. Well, of course that's true. Of course it is. But I thought we'd do another video like this where we'll talk about the world, and we'll talk about the United States, my own benighted, thoroughly evil country. Then we'll talk about broader YouTube. Then we'll talk about BookTube. And then we'll talk about the most important subject of all, which is me. And we can start with the world. The world, the most important subject, the two subjects on the world stage. One, the Nobel Prize Committee did not commit the absolute lunacy of giving the Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump, who is one of the foremost warmongers in the Oval Office in American history, at least in the 21st century. An incredibly violent, munitions oriented leader of this country. So I'm glad that they didn't give the Peace Prize to him, especially since he only wants it for racist reasons. But the larger subject on the world stage is this ceasefire, I guess is the word I have to use, in Gaza. So that if you look at your newsfeed, and a lot of you don't look at your newsfeed, and I don't blame you, but if you look at your newsfeed, you will see gorgeous full-color photos of long lines of Palestinians marching back towards the lunar landscape, utterly flattened desert of rubble that used to be their homes, as this ceasefire takes effect. I have read, I've of course have gone on at great length on this channel about how utterly destroyed and untrustworthy the mainstream media is. They are not just destroyed and untrustworthy, they are entirely okay with fascism. It's contemptible. Just contemptible. But in addition to being contemptible, it's also dismissible because they are very, very, very bad at their jobs. And no one, that I read probably 6 mainstream accounts on the old tablet about this ceasefire, and none of them they barely mentioned how threadbare it is, how cheese-paired it is. It is not a ceasefire in any useful way. It is not. Why on earth those Palestinians would make that trek back to a bare open patch of ground? There isn't even, in most cases, any indication that there was ever a thriving neighborhood there. Why on earth they would make that pilgrimage back there when A, there's nothing to go back to, and B, they know perfectly well that they're going to be back on the road to wherever in a day. So I don't know what to say about it. I have not read any normal reporting about it from any American mainstream media sources, and even the non-American sources. You have to actively read between the lines. I mean, I understand on one psychological level that the whole world would really like this to be good news. They would really like this to be true, but it is obviously not true. So why report it that? Well, anyway, that's the two world news, is that the world's foremost warmonger did not get the Nobel Peace Prize, despite the fact that members of his religion physically threatened members of the committee. Those connections were made, and European law enforcement has been notified. People are going to be quietly arrested, or at least have warrants out for their arrest with Interpol, if they ever get up enough money to leave the country, to leave their trailer and leave the country. Actual people connected dots and actually threatened physically members of the committee, because that's how the MAGA religion works. They don't work by good deeds. They don't work by common sense or sound argument. They work by threatening you. Do what we want or we'll kill you. That's the way the mob works. It doesn't work in any other way. This religion is the perfect fusion of the mafia and fundamentalist Christianity. But that's the world. The Nobel Peace Prize and this story in Gaza, whatever it is in a week's time. It certainly right now looks like a ceasefire, and every mainstream media outlet is calling it that. I hesitate to call it that. But anyway, then we can move on to the United States. And there are two things that caught my attention in the United States. Of course, the first thing is happening today. It is a developing story. There was a massive explosion at a munitions factory in Tennessee. All sorts of law enforcement is on the scene. Unfortunately, a lot of those law enforcement organizations are federal, and all the federal law enforcement organizations, especially the FBI, are completely incompetent. They have no idea what they're doing. None whatsoever. They have no idea what they're doing. So how many answers we will get to what happened? The explosion was enormous, and not everybody is accounted for. The death toll is uncertain while I'm making this video. And the cause, although I don't think there's any reason to think that the cause was nefarious at this point. I mean, it was high-powered explosives that were being worked on in the facility that exploded. So I don't foresee an agent provocateur in the mix. It's just horrifying to see some of the footage come out of Tennessee, and you got to feel for everybody involved, including the families that are still waiting, even now in the late morning, to know whether or not their husband or their wife or their mother is there, whether or not they're still alive. That's got to be horrifying. And the other U.S. bit of news involves Melania Trump, Donald Trump's wife and first lady, and also underreported or not reported by the press, his physical possession. She doesn't love him. He owns her. He bought her from her previous owner. She's an illegal alien. There's never been any investigation into that either. The irony of all ironies for this vicious, racist, xenophobic administration is that the first lady does not have proper paperwork. She should be the highest profile person that ICE goes after. But the Gestapo's leaving her alone because she's the boss's possession. She's his mall. She's his woman. But she was in the news because she reported just blithely that she is in private communication with the dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin. She went on in her syrupy way about it's about the children, but she doesn't care about children. She doesn't care about anyone. She doesn't care about anyone at all. She is as much a sociopath as her husband. It just strikes her as a kind of syrupy virtue signaling posturing to make, and that would be bad enough. But she admitted to a crime. She's not allowed to be conducting any kind of negotiations with a foreign leader. She's not allowed to be doing that. She made clear implication that she talks with Vladimir Putin. That's illegal. She's not allowed. No American citizen is allowed to do that. So, I mean, it's coals to Newcastle at this point to say that a member of the Trump regime is breaking the law. The laws don't seem to matter. But that's not only absurd, but extremely terrifying that Melania Trump, who has an IQ of 65, gets to call up the president of Russia, the dictator of Russia, and just talk to him. What does she know? What does she know about things that happen in the ready room, in the Pentagon? What does she know? What kind of classified information does her husband just babble to her when he's half out of his mind on painkillers or medication or whatever? She shouldn't be. That should not happen. Anyway, I know it's one of a very, very, very long list of things that should not happen, but it struck me. That's all. That we're just going to roll over it. Or that the fascist-friendly, domesticated mainstream press here in the United States is not only not going to notice that it's illegal, but they're going to say, isn't that wonderful? God, she's got a heart as big as all outdoors. They're going to fall, in other words, for the way she's spinning the story, which is just amazing to me. It's just amazing to me. And Matt, I know it's a tired, trite old thing, but imagine if Michelle Obama had gone out into what was then the Rose Garden, now it's a parking lot, but if she'd gone out into the Rose Garden and just casually mentioned, oh yeah, I was talking with Xi Jinping just the other day, the fascist press would never have stopped talking about it. But anyway, they would have mentioned the Logan Act. At the very least, they would have mentioned the Logan Act, and in addition to any other worries about national security. And Michelle Obama has a respectable IQ. Melania Trump, anyway, let's pause for a commercial interruption. Oh, that wasn't long. That's my own version of AdSense, is that you have to pause for commercials once in a while. Then we can move on to YouTube, to general YouTube. And here I have, well, first of all, a wholehearted recommendation. I have recommended this channel to you many, many times before. I will leave a link down below. You should go and subscribe. It is William Gallagher. It's his channel, 58 Keys, which started out as talking about writer to writer, talking about the most prevalent writing technology in the Western world, which is Apple products, your phone, your tablet, or your MacBook. All sorts of tips and tricks, all sorts of updates on changes or anything like that. And William Gallagher is not just a tussle-haired influencer, as you will find on many similar tech channels. He's been around the block. He is an experienced working writer. And every once in a while, if you look around on the broader YouTube, you will find channels against all odds being hosted by experienced older people who still have that ability to talk to you as a normal person, but who actually have a lot of experience at what they're doing, actually know what they're talking about. And William Gallagher has expanded his channel. He now has writing videos on a regular basis that are wonderful, so much worth your time, and also pricelessly. He talks about scripts. And he doesn't blow his own horn. I never understood people who don't blow their own horn. He doesn't blow his own horn, but I will gladly blow his own horn. Or in the disturbing phrase of the kids these days, I will glaze him. He is really good at talking about scripts. Really good. He knows, he can spot what works and doesn't work in a script before you've even thought about what might be missing. Amazing to do. The video I'll link to is him talking about the TV series Cheers. But you should go and subscribe so that you don't miss any of these pearls of wisdom that he lets rattle around the floor of his writing shed. So that is at least purely positive. It's always a pleasure to recommend his channel. But then the other thing that I want to mention from broader YouTube is not positive, but it is interesting. It is interesting, and it flows from something that I mentioned yesterday and the day before in Irish Stew videos, where I mentioned that the extremely influential popular streamer Hassan Piker was recently caught on video electroshocking his dog, who's always behind him in every video. The dog tries to move, he reaches for something out of camera range, and the dog yelps in pain and goes back to the dog's little bed. I don't advise that you watch the clip, but it's only a few seconds, and it could not be more obvious what is happening. Your eyes see what's happening, not just from the dog's reaction, but from his own reaction. He overcompensates because he feels bad. And maybe because his lizard brain is realizing, oh, wait, I just did that on a live stream. I can't edit that out. That video, when you watch that video, it is obvious what you're seeing because that is what you're seeing. That is what you're seeing. So I talked about that. And then in the follow-up to that, I mentioned that Hassan Piker's tribesmen, his ideologically aligned followers, have come forward in hordes to say, no, blue is actually purple. You didn't see that. The thing with your eyes and your ears, you didn't see and hear it. You didn't. That didn't happen. I, Steve Donahue, only make one video a week. I only make one video a week. There are 4 lights. This has become common in the 21st century, which is extra ironic because in the 21st century, literally everything is filmed. So it has less chance now of working than it ever did, and yet it seems to work. His followers, some of whom have big YouTube channels, some of them who don't, came forward in hordes on social media and on YouTube saying, no, what you saw and what you heard in that video, what anyone in the world would know they were seeing and hearing, that didn't actually happen. You didn't actually see that. So that was the update that I mentioned yesterday. And then today I have yet another update to Kaya Gate. And it involves a YouTuber named Westside Tyler. Now, Westside Tyler technically has a smaller YouTube channel than I do in terms of subscribers. But he also is a streamer. So I don't feel like I'm punching down when I say that. All right, let's just talk about the broader genus here. Streamers are not human. They're not human anymore. They have become monsters. They spend almost all of their time online, free associating, doing drugs off camera in order to stay upright, and becoming or releasing their inner sociopath. This definitely applies to Hassan Piker, but it applies to every other streamer too. They're all non-human monsters. And because they're constantly looking at the chat, which is constantly glazing them, they start to assume streamer characteristics. All of them do. And you could make a whole study on this. I have paid close attention to streamers over the last couple of years as they have emerged as a separate subspecies that can be incredibly wealthy. They can be incredibly powerful in their own little niche. And I've watched their common behaviors. They sweat profusely, but that's the drugs. But they also shout a lot, and they are an endless gushing river of profanity. It's unbelievable. They can't get through one clause of one sentence without multiple F-bombs. It's unbelievable. They're poor at thinking. They drop huge personal insults about anyone at any indication whatsoever. They just meet someone. So if you're a streamer and you just meet someone, you say, yeah, hey, how's it going? You effing child abuser? You don't know anything about them at all. That's just your way of talking to people. So I often imagine in my head, a kind of fun hypothetical where a streamer goes in for an actual job interview. And the reason that I mention all of this is because Westside Tyler is very much a streamer. He might not have a large subscriber count on YouTube, but if you look at any of 100 videos that he has made in the past, you will see what I'm talking about. A monster who is sociopathic, loudmouthed, motor-mouthed, potty-mouthed, not a very good thinker, not very well put together, someone who is having a protracted dissociative episode live on camera. I'm not meaning to punch down to him when I say that, because probably he has a huge presence on Twitch or wherever these people live naturally. And I mention that as a kind of ballast against what I'm going to say, because Westside Tyler on his YouTube channel made a video about Hasan Piker electroshocking his dog, which I am not going to put an allegedly in front of. I am not part of this whole maneuver where we suddenly don't believe our own eyes and ears. I know what I saw. Like everyone else, I watched him shock his dog. But Westside Tyler made a video, and it surprised me, because it didn't have any of that streamer business at all. It didn't have what I have always referred to as streamer brain. It showed no exhibition of that at all. In fact, he seemed clearer, better, healthier than I've ever seen him in a video before. And his video was heavily scripted because it had a lot of factual information, as he demonstrates. Anyone who is defending what Hasan Piker did by saying that he didn't do it is factually wrong. Here are the facts involved in that particular kind of shock collar, and here's how we know Hasan Piker is lying. Even if you were to discount the evidence of your eyes and ears, which is already the way you know he's lying. I hasten to add, you already know he's lying because of that. He's lying because of what you saw and heard. But Westside Tyler does a fantastic job, a fantastic, comprehensive job of saying, look, these people who are defending him may be defending him for his stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict or whatever. Maybe it's just a parasocial relationship gone wrong. Maybe they all just can't imagine that he could do anything wrong. Whatever the reason is, he doesn't itemize it like that, but he says whatever the reason is, they are wrong. Factually speaking, demonstrably, this is what he did. And he shows it to you with clips from other videos, with manufacturer's information about the collars in question, these torture implements. It is worth watching. I think his videos were a never in a million years thought that I would recommend a Westside Tyler video of any kind. But quality's quality. He does an excellent job. It should be the final word on what actually happened, if your own eyes and ears aren't enough. So any of you who were curious as to, well, what are the facts involved here? I mean, yes, I saw the clip, and I don't need to be a dog expert to know what I saw, but I'm being hit from Hasan Piker fans and fanboys saying, no, it just looked like that. It wasn't actually that. If you have been in that situation, and not a lot of you are terminally online enough so that you are, but if you have been, and you thought, well, I know what I saw, but I want to grab for facts as well, watch this video. It's the final word unless something were to happen to Hasan Piker that would make him tell the truth. And that's not going to happen. So there you go. There you go. Now we move on to BookTube. And for BookTube, I want to mention two things. Again, one is just a pure positive, and the other is a big question mark that really looks at a bigger subject. The huge positive is Michael K Vaughan. And I don't need to describe who Michael K Vaughan is, because by some weird BookTube arithmetic, a great number of you already know. I don't know what it is. It's certainly, there are radically different subscriber counts in all three cases, radically different presentation styles in all three cases, and yet, how many times have I heard from how many people that no matter what kind of BookTube content goes off the back of the sled during a busy day or what, I have my trinity. I have my three. Steve Donahue, Michael K Vaughan, and Criminali. I have lost track of how many people have said, no matter what else changes on BookTube, that at least stays the same. And I've never understood that. I've never understood that at all. Michael K Vaughan's channel is welcoming and funny and friendly. This channel often is not. I'd like to think it's welcoming, but it's not often funny and friendly. And Ollie's channel is completely professional and calm and rational. The three channels don't strike me as the same at all, and yet how many times have I had them linked? So I don't need to explain Michael K Vaughan, but I will link to him, because he made a video simply called BookTube is Awesome, that I believe was his response to this whole little drama that has developed lately, where started by Shelley Swearingen, of course, where she made a video explaining why booktubers quit. And that sparked a whole bunch of response videos. I thought Mike at Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance did a video on the same subject this morning that was very helpfully from a newbie's perspective. Mike is new to BookTube. It feels like he's been here forever, but he's new to BookTube, and thought he would offer some thoughts on Shelley's original video and all the response videos. I had to smile when at one point he mentioned that he referred to me as dictatorial, that when I state my opinions, I state them as though they were given laws of the universe. I don't do that, do I? Anyway, I'll leave a link to his video as well, because it's really, really worth watching, especially since a lot of you are new to BookTube. But Mike's video was terrific. Just, BookTube is awesome. He's entirely right. And then the other BookTube thing is Janet Wertman from Too Much Tudor. She's our regular Tudor, our resident Tudor expert, and the author of 4 excellent Tudor fiction, Tudor novels. And she recently went to Tudorcon. There is a Tudorcon, and relates in her latest video. She relates some of her adventures at Tudorcon, and also talks about a Tudor-related Discord writing research fellowship type of group that she was kind of sort of thinking of getting off the ground. Here, come on up here. There you go. Do you want to go up there? There you go. And I'll leave a link to her video so you can go and look at the specifics of how that isn't quite going to work, or isn't quite going to work out the way she wants. But there was something hovering over that video of hers. Concord, not Discord. They're all such nerds. All these Tudor people are all such nerds. There was something hovering over her video that I think needs addressing. And enough time has passed, the ideological dust has settled, so that probably we should, and that is NaNoWriMo. We would be heavy into Preptober by now for NaNoWriMo, preparing for National Novel Writing Month in November, and NaNoWriMo went away. It disappeared. It was a fixture in a lot of lives for a long time, and then it disappeared. It shot itself in the foot, then didn't think that was good enough, so it rechambered another round and shot itself straight in the head. So NaNoWriMo is no more. And nothing has really, to my knowledge, appeared to fill that void of a communal writing space. An internet communal writing space, so that all of us can come together. We don't have to be near each other, which can be a good thing, as Janet can attest. If you're near to me, the main thing you're going to hear is, "Are you going to finish those fries?" But what are we? I mean, her video is interesting for Tudorcon just in general, but what are we going to do about that? I don't think it's any coincidence that when she starts to talk about a communal writing space at the end of this video that I'm linking to, she starts to wander, because we don't really know what to do. I even tried to address it on this channel myself. What to do with the lack of that communal writing space. Now, the suggestion that I tried did not work, because it ended up being me asking for you to just email me your thoughts about writing and also your selections of writing, and that didn't work at all. I was utterly bombarded with stuff. I was bombarded with more work than even I could do. And that's not the way it should work at all. it's not anything that one person can do, I don't think. But it is worth thinking about, because I feel that too. I feel like there's a space missing in November that is still open. So anyway, that's BookTube. You know, you can go and watch her video as you watch her Tudor library behind her slowly grow, because she lost her library in a fire. And also you can go to Michael K Vaughan's channel and agree that BookTube is awesome. And then we come to me, to the culmination of all other subjects, which is me. And you would think that this would be a continuation of the me section from yesterday, where I mentioned that the possibility of another dog has floated itself on the far periphery of my life. It seems like that has solved itself. Which doesn't solve the question, doesn't put the question away forever, because there is room here for many more dogs, of course. And in various versions of Hyde Cottage in the past, I've had great teams of dogs. Now I have just one little dog, who is not the same. She has changed in 2025, so she would not object to another dog at all. Provided the other dog minded their P's and Q's, and that other dog will, because I'm right here. But that subject has largely resolved itself for now. So instead, we're talking about my little blue Kindle. So we're talking about my Kindle crisis, as I refer to it, as a dyed-in-the-wool print newspaper hack. I, of course, put a K in front of crisis, Kindle crisis. And the reason that it's on my mind is because I read, yesterday and last night, I read 2 books that I have to review for the trade journals here in the U.S. So I downloaded those files and sent them to my Kindle. And I also read 2 books that are new and forthcoming from American presses that I downloaded and sent to this Kindle. And when I was done with all that, none of them, it's not meaning to be superhuman, those things weren't long, any of them were. And when I was done with those, I thought I would read for pleasure. And I did. I read a Perry Mason novel on my blue Kindle, my little blue Kindle, which was right there with me. It did all that reading with, I think I lost 2 percentage points on the power. So I didn't drain it that way. I did a huge amount of annotating and sent those annotations to my inbox. I did a huge amount of comfortable reading just right there. Didn't go anywhere. I finished with my work. My work was very enjoyable. The 2 books from publishers and the 2 books for the trade journals. It was all very enjoyable. It feels wrong to call it work. But when I was done with that, I thought, well, all right, what am I in the mood for? Do I want another Lou Archer? I want to read maybe some science fiction. I've got a bunch of science fiction piled up that I haven't read yet. Maybe something serial. Maybe I'm working my way slowly through Maigret by Simenon. I thought maybe that. And then I thought, well, no. You make some headway on Earl Stanley Garner. Make some headway on Perry Mason, because I'm working my way through those too. And I should say, I'm tempted to say I'm working my way through those again. I know that I've read plenty of Perry Mason novels in my life, but I have not read them all. Not by any stretch. Not even close. So I'm basically reading these for the first time. And when I came to that decision, late at night, when I'd finished my work and my work reading and felt like I was trying to decide, well, what do I want to do? Do I want a Penguin Classic? Maybe? Do I want a Private Eye novel? Some science fiction? Maybe some fantasy? No, I think of Perry Mason. You know what I wasn't doing when I was thinking that? I wasn't puttering around the place while my sleepy dog was disturbed because I had moved her. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't doing that with the 6,000 books that are here. I was doing that on this thing. And when I finally decided, well, no, I'm in the mood for Perry Mason and Della Street. I'm in the mood for reading these things in order and figuring out how they change over time, just like I did with Nero Wolfe, just like I am doing with Lou Archer, or with Ross MacDonald. And so I did it. I read The Case of the Lucky Loser here with the TV show on the cover. And I really liked it. It was really interesting. It's really interesting. I know it's an obvious trite thing to say, but the relationship between Perry Mason and his private secretary, Della Street, is utterly fascinating. In the early novels, I don't know of anything at the period being written like it. They go out dancing. They go out to dinner. When they're relaxing in the car, Della Street leans inside the crook of Perry Mason's arm. He puts his arm around her shoulder like that, as they continue to talk about the case. I don't think Earl Stanley Garner at any point so far in these books that I'm reading indicates that they ever do anything more than that. They are such friends that they can be physically comfortable with each other. Neither one ever doubts the other. Neither one ever second guesses the other. I don't know of any relationship quite like it. So I'm paying attention to that, but I'm paying attention to other things too as I read along. But when I was finished with The Case of the Lucky Loser, and I'd enjoyed it very much, and my Kindle was still going strong, so I was like 95% power, I had a bit of a Kindle crisis, with a K, because why do I have all these books climbing every wall, piled on every table? Why do I have them if that was my night? And that was not atypical. Why do I do it? Why can't I was going to say, why can't I cut that umbilical? But is it an umbilical? What is it? Why do I have these things? When last night, without missing a beat, without even seriously thinking about it, I wasn't trying one of those YouTube, I lived for 6 weeks on my iPad only, guys. I wasn't trying any experiment like that. I had those trade journal books in PDF form on this machine. I had those new releases from publishers on this machine, and I have all of Perry Mason on this machine. I never needed to move. It was all so convenient. I didn't need to go fumbling around for a pencil in order to annotate. I didn't need to turn this sideways so that I'd have room for my annotation if it happened to be long-winded. On the outside chance that I was long-winded, I didn't have to do any of that. I just needed this thing. I didn't even need the light on. After a while, the light bothers Frida, so I turn it off. I didn't even need that. Which induced a kind of crisis. If that is true, then what on earth is the rest of this? What on earth is this gigantic stack of books recently acquired from the Brattle? What on earth is any of this? If I'm so comfortable. I don't expect an answer. I'm not authorizing you to give an answer since I am dictatorial. but I did ask the question. And I have been asking it all day. I will probably write a tedious Steve Reed entry about it. Good God. But anyway, we'll see what tonight does. If tonight is the same thing all over again, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe, if, because I want to avoid the crisis a second night in a row, if to avoid that crisis, I grab one of these print and paper books I got at the Brattle yesterday that I know are not in ebook form, well, what is that? If I'm avoiding the crisis by intentionally going for books that aren't in ebook form, Anyway, it's not a resolvable subject, so I will wrap it up there, and we will reconvene for whatever these videos are tomorrow. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.